one is the affective principle, right? Affective, as I mentioned, it's anything to do with the heart. It's the degree of emotional involvement. Okay, regardless whether the teacher or the learner's emotional involvement. Okay, so the first one is language ego. What do you understand by language ego? Okay, I'll give you this example. Like, if let's say in your English class, there's a student who's always answering your question, one particular student, or maybe a few students, always answering, always, getting praises as well because they answer and most of the time is correct. So, you praise the student. And then next time around, when you teach something that they don't know, something new in total, okay, um, when you ask the question and no one answers, even the ones who are normally extremely active in your class, all right? Now, why aren't they trying? They are very interactive in all the classes, but why not in this particular class, right? So the issue could be because it's something totally new they don't know. They're scared to try because it will break that ego. That ego that says you are good in the language because so far you've been doing well. But when you learn something new and you are not sure of, and students become very silent, it doesn't mean that they don't know, but they're trying to make connections they can't. So there's something inside us that will filter off such things. So it will stop us from saying things. There is this inhibition in us, all right, that will stop us from doing certain things, especially something we are not sure of. All right. So this is, well, they call it the warm and fuzzy principle because you can't really explain it, right? And it deals with the sense of fragility. Like, what if I say it and it's wrong? Then it'll break my confidence. I'm actually good in the language, but I don't want to own up that I don't know because what if I say and it's wrong, then it's going to break that ego in me. So that's a sense of fragility. Okay, of course, we say good students would not feel bad about making mistakes. They are willing to make mistakes. However, when you're a teenager, that matters. All right, you always want to look good. You always want to appear as smart. I mean, who wants to appear as dumb? I don't think anyone wants to. All right. So that sense of fragility is there. You're afraid of making mistakes. You're afraid of crumbling because of that one silly mistake you have made. All right. Then a sense of defensiveness is also there. And raising of inhibition because you don't want to break that norm of you being good in the language. All right. So the language ego also plays a role. And this is in the affective domain because you can't really explain when it will happen, right? Unlike in the cognitive domain, you know it will happen that way, like rewards, right? It deals with your cognition, but not with the affective domain, right? So, how do we, uh, what do we do to help this situation? Okay, you can encourage your students. Okay, So it's something new. For example, like passive voice, you're not sure. They have learned modals, but they have not learned how to use it in the um, passive form. So you show them a few examples, or um, you can encourage them to come up with sentences. Okay, you can give them clues. You can help them by providing words so that they can put it together. Um, yeah, not in exams, but this we are talking about classroom lessons. Okay, so what you would do in that situation, you make them think differently. And then you give them this assurance. It's okay to make mistakes. It's all right. I know this is something new. It's okay. Just take a guess, a wild guess. You may be right, may be wrong. It's fine. Let's try. So when you do that, then you will find that the student slowly opens up. You can even tell them, okay, you don't have to say this, you don't have to share your own opinion, but you can tell me like what your friends think about it. If you know anyone who has experienced this, how did they feel about it? So you make them give them a second identity, like narrating other people's experience. All right. So then they would not feel bad if they made mistakes. All right. So there are many ways we can handle students, especially adolescents, in terms of their language ego. So you can encourage them and so on. Right. Application. Um, Display a supportive attitude to your students. Okay, this is what a teacher should do. Choose challenging techniques, but do not overwhelm. Move from teacher control to student control activities gradually. Sometimes in some schools, you will notice that the teachers play a very heavy role in all the language classes. So you can't just go in and insist they do activities and interactive lessons because they are not used to it. So how do we move towards that student centered lessons? You do this gradually. So half the lesson you're teaching, and then or a little bit you teach, and then you ask them to do one small activity. Then you teach again, you continue teaching, and then ask them to do another activity. So you do this slowly. Then next week you follow up with this kind of more activities, and then eventually you will get into the full student controlled lesson. All right. So this definitely uh, calls for patience because you can't see an overnight result. It comes over time. And then you also need to understand your students. All right. And students can feel whether you are understanding or not, whether you care for them or not. Even in that simple lesson that you teach, they can feel that. All right. So never underestimate your students because they are full charged, fully charged in terms of their sensitivity of what is happening in class. They are aware of what you're doing. All right. I have had experiences where during practicum, students are very fond, teacher trainees are very fond of having games. So they would play language games, they do crossword puzzle, they do quizzes, and they get very excited. Students get excited because they are fully in charge. They are making noise, they can speak up, anyone can speak up. Whereas in a normal English class, they are not allowed to say so much. They only answer questions and do presentations, but they don't speak in that manner. So that also creates a little bit of a problem, right? The problem is not between students and the teacher, but it's between the teacher and the mentor. Because students will now compare you with their actual English teacher. You're a trainee, right? So trainee and the actual teacher, that's going to be a problem, right? If you get a good and understanding mentor who realizes that you are much younger and students can relate to you better, then they won't have an issue. Most teachers don't have issues, but there are some who will have issues, right? Because they are popular among students, and then suddenly you do all these activities, students love you so much, that becomes an issue. All right. So whatever it is, my advice is also learn about your mentor, not just your students, because that matters. She's going to give you marks at the end of the day. All right. So yeah, that is the teacher's role. All right.